You may recall when we were doing the storyboard lesson, I had several different elements around which there was a circle, or next to which I had a little asterisk. Then, in the following lesson, when you had to reorder your storyboard based on the different building methods for your story, you were told to identify those action or climax pieces. That's what those boxes were. That's what that asterisk was. The asterisk was specifically the climax, and the other boxes were referring to other action elements. In your story, you're going to have one climax, but you can have multiple moments of action or adrenaline. And if you're writing a story that is actually an action story, or a crime thriller, or something that's sci-fi or fantasy, you might have a lot of action as a part of your story. If you're writing something that's more of a character fiction, you might only have a couple of action pieces and one climax. That climax, by the way, doesn't have to be high action. It could be the girl getting to kiss the guy. It could be getting the job. That climax doesn't necessarily have to be an action type of climax. But regardless of whether you're talking about an action scene or a climax scene, the approach that you want to use to write them is a little bit different than some of the other brainstorming methods that we've used. That is why I created Drawing Fire. Drawing Fire comes up with 5 steps that are going to help you create full scenes around those most important moments in your story. In other words, your fastest action, your biggest climax, that's actually your slowest writing. You could take 3 sentences that describe 2 weeks of time and then take a full chapter to describe what happens in that climax moment or in that action moment. That's where Drawing Fire comes in. Drawing Fire is a saying that I've hardly made up. This is something that goes back ages and ages. Drawing fire, if you were in a foxhole scenario, let's say I have to go get that guy over there, but in order to do that, I need you to run that way and draw all the fire so that I can accomplish my goal. In writing, what we're going to do is we're going to draw all of that fire, all of those elements to your main character so that we can achieve the main goal of then sending it out to the reader in one clean form. It starts like this. In your head, I want you to close your eyes and picture your scene. If you're the writer, you know what's going on in that scene. You can picture it. You have that mental picture. Close your eyes and visualize the entire scene. I want to know where your character is, everything that's around your character. I want to know the weather. I want to know the time of day. Every single detail. Close your eyes and see it. Pretty easy first step. Visualize. The next thing that you're going to do is place the action point. 99% of the time, this is going to be your main character, but not always. So if I have pictured my scene, let's say, guess what? You don't have to draw really well for this part, which is great because I don't do any of my own drawing. I hire illustrators to do that stuff. I'm going to say, here's my main character, and my scene is a bomb went off over here, and there's all sorts of fire. So that's my scene. And my family members, they're over here. We got separated by the bomb, but I can't see them through the bomb. So let's say I've got my daughter and my son and my husband. They're all over here. So I've got this going on. Here's my scene. When I'm visualizing it, there are going to be a lot of other things that we add as we work through this. But the action point means that I'm going to find that center of what's going on. And because we're drawing everything to my main character, while this is the event that's occurring, all of the action is occurring around this person. So let's say that this is my main character. Here's my action point. So when you visualize this, I do want you to actually draw your picture. Does not have to be a good picture. As you see, I got stick figures and X's up here, no big deal. So draw your picture. This is just one of those tools that you're going to add to your arsenal as you continue to build your story. When I'm talking about create the perspective, see, this is the problem when most people create action, is they are only writing it from that point of action. What does that person see? And often they stop there. They don't even add those 6 senses of description that we practiced in the first week. So when you're just right here, you're not pulling your reader in at all because you haven't looked beyond your main character. So to create the perspective, I want to know everything that's going on in that scene. And just like the perspective changes based on where you're looking from, what you can hear, all of that perspective changes where you are, where other people are in the scene. We're going to do that in our story. So there are a few other things I want to draw into here. So let's say from our fire, there's all sorts of smoke too. So I want to create that perspective. We've got maybe some tall buildings in the background, and they might even have windows. Some of them are starting to shatter, shattering windows. Again, you don't have to be an artist, as you can see. I'm going to say maybe over here, there's a little tree, and that tree is also on fire, but it is providing some shelter from these people over here that you see running. You don't know if they're good or bad. They've got weapons with them, so have a little put little guns in their hands, but maybe these are the good guys going after some bad guys somewhere. Maybe these are the bad guys. Who knows? So when I visualized, let's say all of this came to mind. When I placed the action point, I went right to my person. You could do it from the perspective of the bomb. That's fine too. By creating the perspective, I'm looking at all of these things and I'm trying to think about what could be viewed from each one of these. I can think about the building felt the shattering of its own glass. I know you're saying a building doesn't feel, but it's okay for us to work with it that way. I'm going to talk about how the gunmen felt the cold steel in their hand of their revolvers, of their 9mm, whatever it is. Revolver's a little dated. Okay, we'll go with 9mm. I'm going to say that my main character, let's pull in those TFIs. She's fearful of whether or not her family is. She's trying to see through the smoke and the flames. We're also going to talk about her physical feeling of maybe her eyes burning and watering. We can talk about the tree feeling the heat in its branches. And then you're going to take and you're going to tie all of those elements together. Connect the points of view. So connecting the points of view would be to think about how all of these different things are different from what your character is seeing. So you're connecting your points of view as in what's going through the mind of him is what she's thinking about. Meanwhile, him over here, he's wondering where his wife is. He sees his kids, but not his wife. We're going to pull them all together. We're going to create all these different pieces. And we're going to see how they can sound like our main character. Last but not least, we're going to draw fire. Draw fire is basically picking two very contrasting points of view and using those to lead off that story element, and then building in all of those other elements. You want as many different senses included as you can. You want as many different moods included as possible. You want as much contrast as possible. You're going to basically dig into each little piece of your perspective here, and then you're going to be able to apply it to a final scene. That final scene means you're going to do the analyze and finalize. By that, you're going to, let's say this guy here is like, I felt the cold steel of my 9mm in my hand. Well, if that's what he's thinking, if that's what he's feeling, but this main character is, a newlywed bride from, a very small town, she's not going to use those words. She's going to think of the guy with the gun running. She doesn't know it's a 9mm. She doesn't know it's cold steel. She doesn't know any of that stuff. So I have to make it sound like her. Analyze and finalize is to draw everything to that person and then spit it back out in its own way. I was running hard, sure my rival would be dragging me to the ground, only 2 yards into the 8 I needed to move the flags. Instead, the number 13 slammed against the white-painted grass. It was his teammate who took the hit. I heard the crack of my man's body against our blue visitors. I tightened the cradle of safety around the hard leather stitches of the football as Manuel fell before me. I could smell the sweat on his jersey as his body brushed past my helmet on the way to the hash marks below. Crunch! My heart leapt, adrenaline surging with every beat. The opposing team could only watch my run helplessly from the sidelines. I imagined their coach shouting, throwing his clipboard against the ground, spitting out the gum he had long since chewed to total blandness. But thinking of his calls of frustration and fury was as motivating to me as the frantic cheering of the fans in the stands. Go! 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 Their calls pushed my legs forward against the pane. Each step bounced onto the field. Tiny trampolines seemed to be built into my shoes. My feet propelled me through the air. My heart beat hard in my chest as the defenders leapt after me, only to fall at my feet in worship of my unstoppable run. And that had all of the elements of drawing fire. We pulled in all of the perspectives from the ground, the football, the coach, the fans, the player, the winning players that were on the team, the sideline members, you name it. Everything was in there, and that is how you create positive action. But good luck on your book in a month as you add in your action and climax.